Welcome to A Student of Leadership, a micro-podcast where leaders are made one habit at a time. Hosted by Rob Adams, a leadership veteran with 30 years of experience, this podcast explores key concepts that define exceptional leadership. Each episode delves into a powerful word or strategy, offering practical insights and real-world stories. Whether you're just starting out or an experienced executive, join Rob as he guides you in learning, growing, and leading with purpose.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Student of Leadership. I'm Robert Adams, and this is episode 61, Why Great Leaders Step Toward Conflict. This week, we're talking about something most leaders spend enormous energy avoiding: conflict. The hard conversation, the tension that has been sitting in the room for weeks while everyone pretends it isn't there. On Monday, the Leadership Table newsletter explored the knife, the third piece of the place-setting framework. The idea that precision is not aggression, that leaders who navigate conflict well don't avoid it, they step toward it, and they do it with skill. Now, if you haven't read it yet, it's waiting for you on Substack. Link is right in the show notes. Friday's Breaking Bread newsletter on LinkedIn went straight to the data. In fact, workplace conflict increased 10% last year, according to M-Train 2025 Workplace Culture Report. It is getting harder for most organizations, not easier. And the leaders who handle it well are the ones whose teams stay, perform, and trust them with the real problems. And if you missed last week's episode 60, we talked about leadership capacity and the crisis that is quietly burning through leaders in food service and hospitality right now. The unsustainable demands, the paradox of giving more when you have less, and how to protect your capacity with real boundaries so you can lead sustainably. That one is worth going back for. It is right there in your podcast feed. But today, I want to tell you something I've learned after 30 years in environments where conflict is not occasional. It is constant. In food distribution, in restaurant operations, in any high-pressure environment where people work hard and the stakes are real, tension is part of the terrain. Here's what I know. The conversation you keep avoiding is really already having itself, just without you in the room. Now, I want you to consider this scenario for a moment. A regional operations manager, 15 years in food distribution, has a senior driver on his team who's been a growing problem for months. Not a performance problem, but a culture problem. The driver cuts corners on the pre-shift checklist, talks over others in team meetings, and has made two newer members uncomfortable enough that they have gone silent. They stop speaking up in meetings they used to contribute to. They stop bringing forward problems earlier. The manager knows. He's known for months. He's told himself he'll handle it when things slow down, when the quarter closes, when the timing is right. Meanwhile, his two newer drivers have made a decision without saying a word to him. And that is just how things work around here. That's right. I've kind of given up. That standards are optional, that speaking up doesn't change anything. You know, he never ended up having that conversation with the senior driver. But the conversation did happen. It happened every single week in the silence he created by staying quiet. The team filled that silence with their own conclusions. And those conclusions were worse than any conversation would ever have been. That is what avoidance cost looks like. Now let me talk about the element behind this week's content. The knife in the place-setting framework is the piece I get asked about the most, because people hear the word and assume it's about being direct, being harsh, cutting through. They hear knife and they think aggression. Well, they're wrong. A knife used well is one of the most precise tools in a kitchen. A skilled chef does not swing a knife, they control it. They know the difference between a chopping blade and a paring blade. They know when to use the edge and when to use the spine. The cut requires skill, not force. The value of the knife is entirely in the judgment of the hand that holds it. And that is what leadership under tension looks like when it's done right. Not aggression, not avoidance. Precision. There are two edges on the knife, the sharp edge and the soft one. Most leaders default to one and call it their style. The avoiders use the soft edge every time, and the team reads that as an absence of standards. The escalators use the sharp edge every time, and the team reads that as unsafe. Now, neither edge is wrong. The discipline, the real leadership discipline, is knowing which moment requires which edge. When someone needs support, when the team is stretched, when trust needs space to grow, you use the soft edge. When a standard is being quietly abandoned, when drift has become dangerous, when something needs to be named and addressed, you use the sharp one. The knife also sets correctly the blade facing inward. Think about it. Toward the plate, the edge is facing the plate. Toward the work. Now that detail matters. The edge is directed at the problem, not at the person. That distinction is what separates a hard conversation that builds trust from one that destroys it. Before I go into the framework any further, I want to say this, though. If this content is resonating with you, the Leadership Table newsletter goes deeper every single Monday. Every week, we take one element of the place-setting framework and we explore it fully. The principle behind it, the leadership application, real frameworks you can use the same week. It's on Substack, free to subscribe. Link is in the show notes. And if you've been listening for a while and haven't subscribed yet, this week's newsletter on the knife is a good one to begin with. Now let's talk about 3 mistakes that leaders make when it comes to conflict. Mistake 1 is avoiding. A leader tells themselves they are being kind, being patient, giving the person time. Well, they are not. They are being comfortable. They are choosing their own ease over the team's clarity. And the team pays for that comfort in confusion, in lowered standards, in the slow erosion of trust. Mistake number 2 is reacting. A leader waits until the frustration has compounded, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, a full quarter, and then responds to all of that build-up tension in a single conversation. Now that conversation, never goes well because it was never really about today. It was about everything that came before today that never was addressed. The other person has no idea what they're walking into, and the conversation hits them square in the face, and they can't make sense of it. Now, mistake number 3 is personalizing. A leader confuses the behavior with the person. They say things, sometimes with the best intentions, but they make the other person feel like they are the problem rather than addressing the specific pattern that is the problem. And the person shuts down or gets defensive, and the behavior doesn't change, and the relationship gets thinner. So here is what precision looks like instead. 4 very important steps. Step 1, step toward it. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now, or close to now, as your next scheduled conversation allows. The longer you wait, the worse the conversation becomes, and the more the team draws its own conclusions from your silence. Step 2, name it clearly. specific and behavioral. Not there's been some tension around here lately. That's just noise. Tell them what you observed, when it happened, what the impact was on the team or the work. This is no time for ambiguity. Ambiguity is not kindness. It's confusion, and the confusion does not change behavior. Step 3, separate the person from the pattern. You're not addressing who they are. You're addressing what has been happening and what needs to change. That distinction changes the entire energy of the conversation. A person who feels attacked defends themselves, naturally, of course. A person who feels respected and clearly corrected has somewhere to go. And step 4, close with belief. This is the step most leaders completely skip. After you've addressed the issue, you tell the person what you believe about them and their ability to move forward. Not to soften the message, not to make them feel better, because if you didn't believe in them, you would not be having this conversation in the first place. You would be managing them out of the organization. The close with belief is what makes a hard conversation an investment instead of a verdict on someone. The hard conversation delivered with skill, with precision, is one of the most caring things a leader can do. I want to add something else to your toolkit available to leaders right now because it matters. Let's talk about the analyzation of AI in communication patterns. It can flag early tension signals in team data. It can suggest talking points for difficult conversations. But now that's generally useful, and I'm not dismissing any of that. But here is what AI cannot do. It cannot sit in the room. It cannot read the silence before someone speaks. It cannot feel the weight of the moment and decide in real time, which edge do I need to use? Conflict navigation is irreplaceable human leadership. The leaders who outsource their discomfort to avoidance, to process, to anything that keeps them out of the hard conversation are not building a team. They're building a quiet problem that will eventually become a loud one. Now, here's what I want you to do this week. Think of the conversation you've been putting off. You know the one. It's already in your mind, like right now. Don't overthink it. Use these 4 steps. Step toward it. Name it clearly. Separate the person from the pattern. Close with belief. That conversation will not be perfect, and it never is. But the team you are building is shaped by the conversations you have or by the ones you keep avoiding. You see, the knife does not have to be brutal to be honest. The most precise conversations a leader can have are also the most humane ones. Now, if you want to go deeper on the knife and everything else in the place-setting framework, the Leadership Table newsletter is on Substack every Monday morning at 6 a.m. The link is in the show notes, and I'd love to see you there. Friday's Breaking Bread on LinkedIn is the shorter, punchier version of each week's idea. 300 to 400 words, a very quick read, one clean insight, straight to the point. That link is also in the show notes. And if this episode gave you something, the best thing you can do is share it with someone you care about on your team, who's sitting on a conversation they've not had yet. Or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I'd be forever grateful. It helps more people find the show. Subscribe to Apple, Spotify, or your favorite feed. It does not matter, so you never miss another episode. Both links are in the show notes. I just want to take a moment and thank you so much for listening to A Student of Leadership. And I'm Robert Adams, and I, just like you, am on a journey of learning. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of A Student of Leadership. Leadership is about who we become and how we help others grow. If you found value in this podcast, share it with a fellow leader and connect with Rob on LinkedIn or leave a review. New episodes drop weekly, so don't forget to subscribe to stay connected. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and leading with intention. Remember, great leaders are made one habit at a time. See you next time on A Student of Leadership.